When it comes to the ability to meet tough situations, I want to quote the late Dr. Norman Vincent Peale, who gave us the book The Power of Positive Thinking. And he simply said, "The more I see people, the more I am impressed by their outstanding ability to meet tough situations, and their ability to rebound is also fantastic." There is a built-in comeback power in you that should never be underestimated. And I think what he shares with us says so much about the human persona and our ability to rise above tough situations. So whenever you find yourself in a tough situation, it could be a very good thing to come back and just listen to this module as often as you need, and you'll find it'll give you the ability to rise above whatever you're going through. What is high performance selling? Well, it's simply above average production, and in many cases it's no more than a fraction above the expected average. Foot racers will win by hundredths of a second. High jumpers or long jumpers will win by very small margins indeed, yet they earn many times more than those that come second, third, or fourth. Most competitions are won by very small margins indeed, and the same applies to sales. So if you only improve enough to be a fraction better than your competition, you too could be earning many times more than those who come second, third, or fourth. We all have power over our future. Yes, the power over our future is in our hands. But on this subject, I want to share the words of Eric Hoffer, who wrote that the only way to predict the future is to have power to shape the future. Those in possession of absolute power can only prophesy to make their prophecies come true, but then they can lie and make their lies come true as well. And that to me is interesting, in fact a really interesting take on the power we have over our future, because, as Eric Hoffer said, we can prophesy to make the prophecies that we actually prophesy come true. But we can also lie, and we can make those lies come true as well. And that to me is frightening. Research shows that good listeners are involved in external reality, which is the affairs of others, whereas poor listeners are involved in internal reality, and that can only be their own agenda. So the only way to stay focused on external reality is to go into the call with a predetermined goal to listen to the prospect and absorb as much of what he or she has to say as possible. Now, the alternative to that is to be a poor listener, because invariably the poor listeners will turn the focus on themselves. And that's so true. In fact, how many poor listeners do you know that invariably will turn the focus on themselves? If you're like me, there are many in that category. So don't be a poor listener and start to become a good listener. Now, I've been in sales for a long time, and some might even say too long. But despite that, allow me to share something I was taught when I first started in selling over a half a century ago. And yet, this particular one factor is still rife in some industries today. Yes, half a century later. So let me share what I was taught. I was taught that the professional salesperson knows only too well never to pitch a prospect, but to present a potential customer. That's right. Never pitch, but present. Now, in a lot of cases, all it is a mental shift in thought. But those sorts of mental shifts are actually picked up by the prospect. So learn to accept the difference, because when you do accept the difference and then try using this for yourself, you'll notice how much better your call is accepted, and ironically, how much more you will sell because of what you now do. So stop pitching and start presenting, and you'll see an absolute change in your prospects, and as I said, also in your income. There are some aspects of the selling process that I will go through over and over again. In fact, some people will say that I labour on those particular aspects over and over again. And the reason why I do that is so many newbies or so many inexperienced salespeople will go down this track time and time again expecting a different result. And it'll never happen. And one of those areas is trial presentations. Now, I've said time and time again that the only time a trial presentation will work if it's done with the permission of the prospect. But it's more than that, because as most salespeople know, or experienced salespeople know, that any trial presentation should have a purpose, whether it's done with the prospect's permission or not. And it should always be done as a prerequisite to ascertain whether you're talking to the right person. Yes, whether you're talking to the right person, because so many people will tell a newbie or a less experienced salesperson that they are the decision maker, and you know what? It quickly turns out that they are not. But these new salespeople or inexperienced salespeople will keep wanting to present to them, no matter what the outcome. But what they need to understand, that they haven't learned for some reason, is that there are many people that say no, or can say no, simply because they don't have the authority to say yes. So as a salesperson, you should take charge of your time, and you shouldn't really spend your time, and some might even say waste your time, with people that cannot say yes, but they are able to say no. So don't fall into that trap. Please don't fall into that trap. Now, I've never forgotten what my father said to me, and it's possibly 60 years or more since he said, "Wise men accept the failure and forget it." And I also have never forgotten the words of the great Norman Vincent Peale, because when you have failed, he tells you that the first step is to forget it, and how true that is. And the second step is to never again accept the same failure. And yet some of us will accept the same kind of failure a second time, a third time, a fourth time, and so on. My question to you is, why? Why would you subject yourself to that type of pain? Whenever you fail in future, just forget the failure, and then make sure you don't embrace the same failure again a second time. Forget the third and fourth, just don't embrace it a second time. And if you do that, your world will be a better place for you to live in, and a better place for those around you to live in as well.